apparently recording is in progress, so that's great. I think we always try to share after because we discussed that, right? So we'll do that, and then I see participants are already here. That's great. We'll just wait a little bit, wait a couple of minutes, then we'll start because that's a good idea. So I think we should just start our chat, and then as people arrive, they will hopefully catch up. So my name is Dana Dennis Smith. I'm delighted we can host Sharon and Mia today. I think it's a great topic. As we said in a new invitation, Obelisk Sport is one of, I think, about 12 companies in the legal sector that is a big corporation. We really care about making an impact, and I am beyond excited to see in-house lawyers and the in-house community continuing to make an impact for pro bono work, which we are very good at because we are lawyers. And one of the things that I most enjoyed, if I look back at my legal career, was being in secondment and doing pro bono work for the free representation unit. I learned so much from being close to the issues people face every day. And anyway, so I'm really, really happy we can have this conversation. Today, I'm joined by Sharon Blackman from Citi and Mia Motiee from Bloomberg. They have a lot of information and knowledge and know-how to share with you. And we are doing the seminar on the hot on the heels of basically the launch of the pledge, which is exciting. And I will come to you, Mia, first to tell us more about what is it all about beyond the party, what we will do after now that it's out in the open. So tell us more about the pledge.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here and to share and chat with everyone. So the In-House Pro Bono group, Sharon and I are both steering committee members, and other colleagues of ours on the steering committee worked really hard with a few other groups to put together the pledge. It's a pretty straightforward pledge, and it's intentionally kind of structured that way because we want it to be accessible for everyone, and we really want it to encourage. We want the purpose of it to be to encourage, growth in in-house pro bono support. So really the first step is you have a pro bono champion. Some of you might have that already. Some of you might be thinking about it, but really it's just assigning someone or a committee, maybe a couple people, to say, we're going to go ahead and try to put together a pro bono program. And don't be intimidated by the word program. It can be one thing, two things in a year. Start small is our recommendation, but first you need a pro bono champion. The second thing that we would recommend is joining the in-house pro bono group, of course. You can request a mentor. So we have a very wide range of in-house groups who are members of the in-house pro bono group. If you're just getting started or if you're midway through, whatever stage you're in, there is someone who has been there, who is part of the group, whether it's be someone on the steering committee or another member. And we want to kind of connect people with people who can provide support and provide any examples and kind of just ideas as people are kind of growing their pro bono groups within their in-house teams. So have a champion. Hopefully you're joining our group. We'll help you with a mentor. And the next thing is work with commit to kind of a pro bono level of participation. So in the first year, we ask that 25% of your lawyers or team members donate 1 hour, do 1 hour of pro bono. In the second year, that will go up to 35%, 1 hour. And then in the third year, we hope that you guys commit to 50% of your legal and for us compliance teams doing 50% doing 1 hour of pro bono work. And obviously in order to do that, you need to figure out how you're going to record that. So that's the other thing. We hope that as you guys are building this program, you're finding out a way to record your pro bono work and all the good things that you've done in a way that works for you. We've heard some people have kind of more formal systems for logging. At Bloomberg, it's a little bit kind of more ad hoc. We have paralegals who help us and we kind of do it a bit more manually. So we're working on kind of making that a bit prettier and easier to work with. But there's no wrong way to do kind of any of these things. But those are kind of the big, like the core tenets of it. It's relatively straightforward, as we said. And again, the purpose of it is to encourage participation. Sharon, I don't know if you wanted to jump in and add anything to that.
Can I just come very quickly, because I will be coming to you, Sharon, but I
Sorry.
love this idea of building a bank of time that the team feeds into. I love the way you structure this kind of, gradual increase, but actually it's that kind of collective capacity building, which I absolutely love, because you think, well, what will my 1 hour do? But actually, what will all of ours do? All of our hours together will be so much more powerful. And I'm coming to you, Sharon, because I know you're a champion of many wonderful things, but pro bono, like it's such an impactful thing to do. And sometimes, when we were in private practice, we did a little bit of it and we doubled in it. But what made you champion pro bono? What was the kind of driver for you to say, you know what, let's do more, because actually that's how we make impact. How do we scale this kind of paying forward contribution, really feeling we kind of connected to the real world?
So two things for me, really. As a student, I had the benefit of being invited to a pro bono clinic and was able to interact with some really senior barristers and solicitors there who gave me great advice. Just being around them, watching them operate, and getting some responsibility around case management, interaction with clients. I think it was, in many ways, the making of me in terms of pushing me down that route on that career journey. And I would really strongly encourage students to do the same. There's nothing that beats that practical experience and the confidence that it gives you in terms of the application of law, second to none. And then having then embarked on my legal career as a legal professional, in terms of keeping my skills sharp, opportunities to do more advocacy. I'm a barrister by training, but have gone down the employed route. And so it provided some opportunities to do a little bit more on the advocacy side, and also to just broaden my skills. And it plays again into the confidence piece, the client management. How do you extract all the information that you really need from your clients? It's skills that we deploy all the time, but as you progress through your career, you can continue to refine and hone. I went into financial services at the end of the day and love my career, love the industry, but there is an element of detachment from reality in some respects. I cover derivatives, or historically that's what I've done. This gave me an opportunity to be in a more grounded way and to also see the impact immediately. And it's so huge. You can do $1 million billion deals, amazing. But actually, the one time that you help somebody through an employment tribunal and you recognize that you've literally changed their life or helped them change their life, you can't compare it. The impact is just infinitely, infinitely greater.
It's, I mean, there's so many ideas actually, and I think this kind of, there's something in it for you as well as there's something that you're giving other people, because that power of argument. And I think that's what I found, because I also did employment pro bono work, and I mean, just going to, as you said, the advocacy, all this kind of, there's nothing more real than when it's real.
Yeah.
And you get the pushback and you get the challenge from the tribunal, and you're looking for options. But actually, the best thing was the hugs I got at the end.
Yeah.
The difference, that another £5,000, £8,000, where, as you say, in our world of commercial world, they look like small amounts, but for them, huge, huge. And so remembering the skills you gain and that kind of reality and the connection to real issues, I think it's just fantastic. But also I think it's bringing that power of the lawyer, that sometimes, because it's not as if we're going to do, we of course can do lots of things, but also using skills that we have built around advocacy and actually taking them forward. There's great examples about why do more of it, and why it actually benefits not just the recipient, but actually really makes you a stronger, better professional. That's just brilliant. So, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about how the pledge works, and I don't know, Sharon, if you want to kind of mention more around the thinking behind and why this kind of public commitment to do more is important, because obviously historically always sat in the private practice kind of space. We would get sent to law centers or whatever, and driving it from the in-house, I think it's just wonderful, really. I think it's great to empower that community to think they can give and also take part and make their own program. I love that, Mia. So why is it important to have this kind of public commitment around initiatives like this to kind of scale the reach?
For me, twofold. I think you're right. It has generally been something which lawyers in private practice would undertake. But there is a huge opportunity, because there's a massive community of employed lawyers who could also get that benefit, those benefits that we talked about, and provide those benefits to society. I think as a profession, we recognize that we are incredibly fortunate in the skills that we've been able to acquire, in how we're able to deploy them in our work, how we're rewarded, all of that piece. And to be able to give back to our communities where we work, where we live, is, I think it's something which should be more routinely acknowledged. And I don't want to say exploited, that's the wrong word, but
leverage, because we are in the financial world. Leverage feels like a good word for that.
Absolutely.
But I think also as lawyers, it kind of connects with that kind of motivation about why we start with that kind of sense of driving and kind of contributing to kind of just and fair society, right? Because that's what makes us lawyers. So it kind of goes to the very core of how do we all come to be lawyers. And that's what I love about it, because it kind of takes us back to that kind of almost like this intuition about, it draws me because I feel I can make a difference. And that's kind of so basic, and it's so good to be reminded and grounded into that, because that's what the profession is about. It is about that kind of sense of fairness. But we did say we would promise today that people will be at the end of this webinar, they will just do it and they will know how to. Because I think there's kind of so many wins and so many just benefits, really, as you've highlighted. But very often the kind of the gap between great idea and now reality of actually put it into practice can be a bit daunting and scary. So I'm after all the tips in your bags, how to do it. Let's do it. It's a great thing to do. And over to you. I don't know who wants to come first. We'd like, how do we actually persuade and then bank the time and identify the things? And wow, it's a great result.
So perhaps if I start, then Mia, I think you've got a really great example of an in-house group taking the lead. So I would say, and it is part of the pledge, the ask there is to recognize the impact that we as employed council can have, yeah, which is that we work with panel firms. Everybody will have panel firms, law firms that they work with, and we really need to leverage what we are doing more holistically. So one of the asks of the pledge is that you speak to your panel firms and ask them what they are doing in the pro bono space. And again, the purpose of that is to ensure that you are giving the message out across the industry that we think it's important, and we think that that communication will also drive more pro bono from private practice firms. So the starting point, I think, typically is leverage your panel firms, ask them what they're doing, demonstrate that you've got an interest in hearing what they're doing and also what you can participate in. And typically that's the easiest way, because it gets you over the insurance hurdle, which can sometimes be a problem. Increasingly, we're also seeing firms being able to extend or looking to extend their insurance. And there are other neat ways, whether that's utilizing LawWorks because they have programs and things of that nature, but it's all surmountable. But I would say start with your panel firms. Mia.
Yeah, no, and that's how we started. I started the program with a colleague about 6 years ago, and our first kind of port of call after feeling initially a little bit overwhelmed by the ask was to go to our panel firms. And one of the things I would also add to that is a successful program is one where you have senior buy-in. So you need buy-in obviously from, legal, leadership and legal, but also from kind of the business side. It's something that we very closely work with our philanthropy team that does they organize all of our CSR work. And we work really closely with them. We align with them on certain principles that are important to Mike Bloomberg and other senior managers here at the company, so that we can make sure that the work that we're doing is so closely tied to what they're doing that support there is really almost inevitable. And it would be anyway because of the kind of work we're doing, but really aligning it with what our kind of charitable and CSR objectives are really helps kind of bring that together. And we always get kind of that kind of more robust support whenever we're showing that we are doing our best to meet with the company's ethos and kind of follow kind of those things that are really important to us. So I would say that's a really good idea. The other thing that I would throw out there is we work really closely with our philanthropy team on our pro bono work. So we kind of keep them in the know on what we're doing. One of the things that is a good kind of also another starting place is they work with so many charities that sometimes they need those charities that our philanthropy teams work with need pro bono support. And so sometimes they filter through asks through our philanthropy team that comes straight to the pro bono committee. So I've got a couple of relationships where I've been supporting a few of our charities on a few commercial matters. And that's just been really helpful for them. And it's easy for us to kind of have a pipeline from that side. So that's an interesting way that we also get work. Very specifically though to Bloomberg, one of the things that we did where we actually created a program and then went to our panel firms asking them if they wanted to join us was something that we call the Green Tech Legal Collaborative. And it was kind of born out of frustration because we'd been looking everywhere for something with an environmental or climate action spin that lawyers could work on. And we're not environmental lawyers on our teams. We're also not able to get into litigation. And so we were really kind of searching and really not finding anything that felt appropriate for our team to get involved in, which was a bit frustrating for us. And so I was chatting to my colleague who was my co-chair at the time, my pro bono co-chair, and we were kind of just chatting about our frustration, and someone said the right combination of words, and then we kind of talked about it and came up with this idea for the Green Tech Legal Collaborative. And essentially what it is it's a group of lawyers and compliance professionals from Bloomberg and from several firms that we work with. I think we're up to 8 firms now, and potentially other in-house groups who are interested. And basically what we do is we work with Imperial College and other kind of green tech focused startups. So they've got their kind of incubator program. And these green tech startups are really doing incredible things. They're changing the world with this, the technologies they're coming up with and the ideas that they've got. They're very young though, and a lot of them are kind of at the point where they don't have funding for legal support. A lot of their funding is very specific to research and development. And without some of this support, they wouldn't survive kind of getting out into the world. Or what we've been seeing is that they're very naive in kind of the business and legal sense. And so they end up kind of agreeing to things that they shouldn't be agreeing to, where a lot of, like, half the equity is, given to a big company they're negotiating with or something like that. So they need that legal support, but they don't have the ability to pay for it yet. They're really early stages. So what we do is we provide basically small legal teams that go in and support each of these startups. And we do it for a cycle. So each of our kind of phases is about 9 months long. So basically, we usually launch a new phase in May, and we go on to the following January, February, where we ease the startups off the program, or we invite them to reapply and join us for a next year. So we've been doing that. And the reason we thought it was such a great idea, and the reason that it's been really appealing to us, we're in our 4th year now, is because it allows us to use our everyday legal skills to support startups without having to kind of have an expertise in environmental law or worry about having to deal with litigation, because obviously we can't do that. And so it's really, really fulfilling in that way. And you build these relationships with these startups, and they're doing incredible things. Just a couple examples that I can throw out there for startups that we've supported. We have one called Resting Reef, where it's a kind of green burial, where you're kind of creating, kind of doing a green cremation, and then building, and then those kind of remains go into this coral reef, or an oyster reef, I think, or oyster bed, I think. Anyway, they're the experts, not me. And then it goes and it's like located in this beautiful spot, and they've kind of got benches organized so that people can go and, if the environment's important to you and that's kind of what you want for end of life plan, it's a really interesting way to kind of think about how to kind of honor someone who the environment was important to. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but that's something that we've been supporting that startup for 3 years now. Another one is a company that's been creating these kind of little, it's almost like a little vacuum cleaner. It sits on the top of the back of your car, on top of the wheels, and basically takes in the waste from your tires, like the excess from putting the brakes on. And apparently that kind of waste accounts for, I think it's the second highest air pollution. It's the second highest contributor of air pollution, the kind of runoff from the tires. And so it sucks that up, and then it creates another product that can be used, I think, to create more tires. But it kind of suctions that up so that it's not going into the air we breathe. It's actually just being reused into another material. And that's the second startups that we've been supporting for 4 years now. They're in their 4th year with us. They're probably sliding off at the end of this phase, but we've been doing really great work with them. We've watched them grow from a very tiny startup with, just big eyes and not knowing really what's going on. And really, they've developed a lot. They're now in negotiations with some really big car manufacturers to install these devices on the back of cars and doing trials. So they are getting to a point where they're not going to need pro bono anymore. But it's been really amazing watching the teams grow, and the lawyers have come back and just had the best feedback. They love developing the relationships. They love using their legal skills. And then it feels good to feel like you're contributing to something that's helping the environment. There's a tangible kind of benefit to seeing these startups that are really hoping to change the world and doing these incredible things, and knowing that you had a small part of it has really meant a lot to a lot of our volunteers. So we've been really, really happy with the program.
Well, I love the sound of the startups already. So I'm thinking,
they're very
wow,
cool. It's
really
amazing.
inspired by what they do. And that's the thing, isn't it? Not, the part of the learning. So, going back to my kind of checklist, how to do it, it sounds to me like one of the important things to do is to think about the areas of interest. The environmental contribution, is it define, because pro bono is very broad. It could be, law center, immigration, disability application, benefits, all these things, that are kind of consumer facing, or it could be business focused. Define pro bono. Do you want to contribute something to that, Sharon, as well?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we have run for about 6, or it might even be more than that, it might be 8 or 9 years now, is, as you said, the support work for people who are claiming personal independence payments, where they are appealing a decision and they are doing it on their own. And we work with a law firm. They identify the clients who need support, and we would field 1 or 2 people to work together. They would interview the client, prepare the appeal, and then go with them and sit with them in the tribunal. And even just that act of being there and having somebody who is on your side and supporting you, even though in and of itself that's not a real use of your legal skill, the impact again is tremendous. It's a huge impact. What I also did at Citi was to utilize some of this pro bono work for our trainees. And so we do offer pupilages, and we offer training contracts. And I think it's really important to instill at the early age, that may have come through in things that I've said before, and early in your career, that giving back, that getting involved, and all the benefits it gives. So for me, for our pupillage program, I embedded a requirement to undertake some pro bono work in support of that, which was really useful because that's probably the better place to get the advocacy piece when you're in-house in an organization such as ours.
And I think what I really love about your examples is that, you know, in terms of like, how do you get to the pro bono? So obviously think about where you want to deploy your internal team skills, and, you know, whether you want to partner or not, but also you can create your own pro bono opportunity. And that's what I really like, that your examples are basically saying you can partner, you can go out, there's a lot of help that's needed, but also you can think something, you can create something by canvassing the interest of the people in the team and, you know, partnering again, but by having definition as opposed to being, you know, the best impact is when you're defined and then narrow and then you expand. And that's what I love about the pledge as well, because it starts small, you can make the impact and then you can grow it, and obviously partner with colleagues in other organizations. So it's great to hear about how you can source the pro bono work, you know, because I think sometimes people think, well, I want to do it, but where do I start?
And if you really get stuck there, I would take you back. The pledge has you joining the In-House Pro Bono group. It is an amazing resource. Yeah. On the website, we've got videos of things that other people have done, which will be inspiring, which you will some of them will resonate with you, some of them will not. But there is so much support out there and so much willingness to work together to help everybody participate. This is definitely one area of law which is not really competitive in the same way as perhaps other areas are. This is incredibly collaborative and supportive, everybody working towards having the biggest impact that we can as lawyers in society.
Yeah, I mean, we have some questions. I might take some of the questions as we go along because we don't want to not have the opportunity. And Sharon, you did answer the metrics question, which is a good one, because obviously if we are banking time, we want to be able to track the time and how, and then measure impact. So we had a question and you've given the answer. How can one start track the hours they put into this kind of pro bono time bank, let's call it that? And what have you seen that works? And Sharon, you've answered, but I think it would be helpful for everybody to kind of be inspired that it is possible to track, to get to this 25%, 35%, 50%, and, you know, feel good about it.
I think it wasn't even a thing when we started doing pro bono in terms of tracking it. We just wanted people to sign up and do it. But actually, as we've matured and the conversation around pro bono has matured, it's really clear, just like any other activity, if you track it, if you measure it, then you're able to apply some more focus and actually get better impact. And so I would say it doesn't have to be anything more formal than a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet. If you're proficient at Excel, hands up, I am not. So that's not my choice. It would be the Word document. Or simply canvas what people are doing. You'd be amazed what people are actually doing, which would count as pro bono, and just writing it down and just keeping a log. I think the other piece about that tracking is, as in-house lawyers, we typically have this 360 end of year review, aspirations around leadership and development. This is an exceptional way to both encourage leadership and to see the development of leadership skills, but also to offer non-monetary rewards, which are always always, well, we spend a lot of time thinking about how you do that and how you motivate and encourage people, and actually doing this, tracking it, then highlighting this within your organizations once you've tracked it. Really great ways to have impact, which is beyond just the delivery of the pro bono itself.
Yeah, so I guess the other benefit is that you engage with your team and you keep the team motivated. So you kind of create a stronger team. So you benefit yourself because you learn, you benefit society, but also you create more engagement internally. And retention of talent, engagement of talent is a really important topic for all businesses right now. So if you can find a way to bring them around topics of interest and commit and be active, it's a great win as well for the organization.
And the last point I would make on the tracking was that although we did start off with a piece of paper and an Excel sheet, what we've graduated to, if I can call it that, is trying to leverage other systems that are already in our organization. So Citi is very, very focused on volunteering. Most companies have some kind of program around that. What we also realized was that they do great work using technology to track it. So just a more organized system of tracking, and we've managed to convince them that we can to leverage that and make some amendments so that we can track pro bono through the same system. So
and we've done the same.
Well, that's great. So we know we will be tracking collectively, because in a year's time, when we look at the pledge, we will get at least 1 million hours of volunteering time in the pro bono world, right?
That would be fantastic.
We like that number. So let's start with 1 million hours by April 2025. And have a party. The other questions that are coming through are insurance related. Obviously, we are an advisory kind of world, and if you give people wrong advice, some pretty terrible things can happen. So a couple of questions around, both how do you ensure the work when it comes through internal referrals, so to speak, if you work with your philanthropy colleagues or whatever. And more generally, I think it seems to be a matter of concern. How can we ensure the advice we give through this pro bono work? And what is your experience and what's your advice?
So Bloomberg's, I think we're quite lucky in that we, I think, are in the minority of in-house groups that I've heard of where we are insured. So globally, all of our lawyers are insured to do pro bono work. So we're covered in that way. So I'm probably not the best person to speak about how to get around it because we don't have to worry about it. I do know LawWorks is a solution that a lot of people kind of go to, but I'll hand over to Sharon on that one.
So whilst we are also in that situation now, it did take a conversation with our COO for legal to kind of like move to that state. And prior to that, we leveraged the insurance of our panel firms because we were working with them. And I think really what you need to have the dialogue with them to ensure that they understand that you expect to be covered by their insurance, but it's not going to be new to them once it's raised. Maybe it means you've got to sign an engagement letter with them. Practically, it means that if you're providing written advice, it goes out on their headed paper, having been looked at by a senior in their organization, right? All fine. Never been a problem from our perspective. It was easy. If one firm wouldn't do it, and I don't think we've ever had a situation where one of our panel firms was not able to provide us with pro bono opportunities and also was not willing and able easily to extend their insurance coverage to us without any challenge or issue.
Okay, well, that's really reassuring actually in terms of the mechanics of doing it. And we have another question about signing up to the group. That must be music to your ears. I'm happy to circulate joining in instructions in the follow-up email following this webinar, but do you want to give any kind of direction? Because obviously a link is probably the easiest link to actually joining. So Francesca, we will share a link with you afterwards, and hopefully it's easy after that. Yes?
Yeah. To do an email, we'll send the link, but actually we've just got a standard email address, and if you were to contact any of us on the LinkedIn page, we can happily arrange that for you. But I think the easiest thing is to send out information after the call, make it available. I think it's info@inhousepro-bono-group.uk, but we'll confirm.
I won't hold you to that one.
No, don't hold me to that one, because I'm just thinking now, is it that one?
Maybe somebody will test it live. So obviously we said, there's different routes and you can create your own work and you can, go to law firms and whatever. And I guess the question is, how much work is there to be done pro bono? Is there are you trying to put together kind of place, a resource space where you're guaranteed to find some, if people don't want to kind of deploy their imagination or they're just ready to go or something like that? What do you say about sourcing this pro bono work, and is there a way of keeping track of the demand out there? I mean, I think it's huge, but obviously, are there places where you can go and kind of take it off the shelf, so to speak?
Well, I'd say one of the things that I think before I'd kind of go and like suggest kind of finding something off the shelf, I think the first thing everyone should do when you're starting your pro bono program, or if you have a program, that is live, is to always, check in with your team, survey them, and see what they're interested in doing, and that'll help kind of direct you into which, what you're looking for. And so I would say that's definitely the first step, like see what your team wants to do, because you could source 12 amazing projects, but if no one wants to do them, then you've just sourced 12 projects and wasted some time. And that's not a great feeling, to kind of put a program out there and have very little interest, especially when you put a lot of work into it, which has happened to us before. So we like to survey our team and see what everyone's interested in. I had a really good conversation really recently with Rebecca Wilkinson at LawWorks. She's a CEO, and she and I were talking about how LawWorks can, one, provide insurance, and two, or you get coverage with them, and two, they can help put bespoke programs together, which I thought was a really cool thing and something that I hadn't realized you could do until chatting to her. But you can go to her and say, hey, we want to do IP, like we're very interested in some IP projects, and they can help source something and create a bespoke program for you, which I think is just a really neat thing, and really helpful as you're kind of just dipping your toe in the water and trying to figure out, how to create a program, or what to do. So I think that's one really interesting way to kind of find. One of the other things I would suggest is don't be too narrow in your definition of pro bono. Our legal team, kind of the team that is expected to do pro bono per our GC, is legal and compliance. That includes I think over 50% of the department that are not legally qualified. And so we have to figure out very inclusive ways or programs to make sure that everyone, for the most part, can get involved. Now, there are certain projects that are more difficult to get involved in if you're not a qualified lawyer, but for the most part, we always have some sort of mentoring of law students. We try to always have some research projects on, and a lot of times those research projects do come through conversations with our law firms. If they're working on something, we'll say, hey, we definitely have the capacity to do some research, and those are always filled, because you always have people who want more, interactions-based pro bono work, and those are great people to go to clinics. And then you also have people who say, I'd rather sit at my desk and do some research, do it in my own time. And those are always people who are raising their hand for the research work. And then you have people who like both. So I would say we'd like to do that. Another resource, I think, that has been very popular here has been legal experts in schools, or other programs that are similar to that. Pre-pandemic, you were going to the schools. I think over the pandemic, that kind of slowed down a bit. Now that it's post-pandemic, I think they're picking that up again, where you're going to the schools and kind of helping, with some programs that have been put together. We were doing that with one law firm before the pandemic, and now we've picked that up again very recently with a different firm. But that's another really popular one. It also helps get your volunteers out of their day-to-day, and you're putting them in a new environment where they get to interact with younger people, and it's fun and it's different. And we found really amazing engagement with those with that program. So it's, again, not something, when you think of pro bono, I think everyone has this idea of what it could be, what it should be in your head. But as you're working with in-house teams, and everyone's got different specialisms and everyone has different kind of educational backgrounds and qualifications, if you have a requirement to have a more inclusive program like we do, you want to be thinking about a more expansive view of what pro bono is, and really get creative in terms of what your teams well, think about what their interests are, what their skill sets are, and then think about how we can give back and contribute to our different communities. So that would be kind of, those are a few ideas that I can throw out there.
Great ideas, and actually very practical, which is very good because I think hopefully everybody will sign up and start doing it. We had a couple of questions around how the pledge will work in terms of accountability, I would say. So, you sign up, and obviously we've seen pledges and things, and they come and go. And the point is, some of the questions are, will you measure the success? Will you ask organizations to pledge to actually show up and show you what they've really done? Are you collecting? Going back to the kind of, will we know when we hit the 1 million hours of pro bono time? And what happens to organizations that sign up but they don't live it? How will the pledge work?
So that wasn't about the consequences. So it's not a case that if you don't meet your 25% or of your organization undertaking 1 hour in the first year, that you are named and shamed. I think in reality, this is supposed to be an aspirational but achievable target. And what the In-House Pro Bono group is also looking to do is to create some of those opportunities where people don't have fully fledged programs themselves, so that we can give you the best possible opportunity to succeed. So you alluded to the event on the 24th of April, which was our Pro Bono Day, our National Pro Bono Day, and all of the pro bono opportunities, both online and in person, that were run at the Law Society, that we helped to create, pull together and offer alongside Beal Gottschall. So that was one way where we felt people could get some of those hours in for their teams. And we are looking to do more of those events to highlight more of those opportunities so that you don't miss your targets. And I think if you join and come to the round tables that the In-House Pro Bono group offer, you'll also get some more support in how you drive participation, because that continues to be a conversation. How do you drive participation? How do you encourage engagement? Quite often you find that those people they get it, they've done it before, they're interested, all over it. They will find, like anything that enthuses you and excites you, they will find the opportunities to do it, whether you put a program on or not. What you really want, though, is to, as always, hit those people who are, or get to those people who are not necessarily believers. And that's about the programs that you offer, trying to refresh always, trying to make sure that it's broad enough to include everybody. Well, that's my view. I hope that gives a sense of how I think you should respond in that.
I think it's great. Obviously, it's not punitive, but it is important that we have a sense of the difference we make. And I think, tracking, as we heard, it's not complicated because you can do it on a spreadsheet. You can literally keep it on a piece of paper. That's your type of doing it. But important, I think, for us to know how much we've done and how much more we can do. So I think that there's a kind of power in reaching certain milestones, because they will create the momentum. They will persuade the ones that are not quite in the tent. So I think it's great. And I will finish, because I think we want to run on time. Yeah. I will ask you the question that I know you've answered it, but I feel like I need to ask it out loud, because every time I meet in-house lawyers, they're really stretched. And they are like, the plates are, wow. I mean, it's incredible. They don't fall, but they're incredibly skill that's keeping them all flying around and not dropping them. So there's a lot of work, and the work is piling up more and more and more and more going in-house on in-house teams. So to do pro bono work, you've got to clear some time. And so how can we make the time to do more good work, pro bono work?
Couple of things for me. I know it's we're close to time. I think the idea of trying to find bite-size opportunities. One of the things that we ran was this mapathon. We worked with one of our panel law firms. You can literally fit the training, the application into an hour, and you still get an impact and a result. You can almost make it a competition. You can make it a team building exercise, that type of thing. I don't know, Mia, if you've got thoughts on how do you find the time? Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work being on the committees. So it does take a lot of time on top of an already busy day. And I think that's not unique to me or Sharon. I think that's, as you said, it's everyone, right? I think that you want, again, the buy-in from the top to say, if we are going to have a pro bono committee that's successful, or a pro bono champion, however it's structured, they need the grace to find the time to do it. You need to have someone saying, we understand that this is in addition to your day-to-day. So certain kind of a little bit more, I think, tolerance for, hey, I need a couple of extra days on certain things, just because if I'm meant to be moving this program along, I have to find the time. That's not to say I'm not doing things on the weekends and at night. There are times where, I log in at 8 and I'm doing a couple of hours of pro bono in the evening, just because I can't fit it in the daytime. But I would also say a very practical way to avoid kind of that time stretch for one person is to put a committee together. Don't put it on one person. Have 2 people do it, have 3 people do it. You can have a co-lead or a lead the way we do it, and then a team under to kind of take on the smaller tasks and do delegation, but do something where you're not putting the pressure on one person. Obviously, that's dependent on the size of your organization, but you need kind of that understanding from the top, but also you want to make sure you're not putting all of the pressure on one person to deliver a program that's meant to be successful on top of delivering their day-to-day work and doing all the things they need to do to be successful in their day job. So I would say that, yeah, it's definitely a little bit of both, but I think understanding from the top is core. And one of the things that we do is our GC and our head of legal are very focused on pro bono. And the end of our year, we do our summit, and you kind of have a little award ceremony for and there's a small trophy given out to the person who has done the most pro bono for the year. So we do try to make it fun, and we do try to make it part of our vocabulary day to day. So it's not something where everyone's like, oh, wow, you did pro bono. It's just, oh, what did you do this week? So it's very much part of our common work day, and we can build it into our time. So I can block out time, block out an hour of my day, do some pro bono, and then turn and do the rest of my work, for the rest of the day. And that's very much acceptable at our organization. And I think that's a really good way to organize it, because it makes it more accessible for people.
The last thing I would say quickly, we have a global community day at Citi, which is a commitment across the globe in every jurisdiction to undertake volunteering and support the community. What we did was we leveraged that, because they give you time, a day, 2 days, lots of firms do it. We leveraged that and tried to identify pro bono opportunities and direct the legal teams or anybody else who was interested and had the skills to undertake pro bono as part of that corporate ask, right? So it absolutely ties in, and your time is already protected because it is driven by a desire, a cultural desire of your organization to do work of that nature at that time. So leverage that.
Well, it's brilliant, because what I've heard is, first of all, leaders role model what good looks like, and actually the pledge is looking at you. So that's great, because starting the pledge and asking GCs to say, you know what, we want the team, it's good for the team. Then the ground up, because somebody has to be involved and take the lead. And Mia, you've talked about, some people do carry a little bit more because it's a kind of leadership role as well. But at the end of the day, start small and you can do a lot in 1 hour of your time if you set it aside. So I'm hearing, and then you can partner and you can take part in events and you'll sign up to the pro bono group and they will start directing 1 hour of work your way. Not really, but you know, the aims and there's a lot of ways in which you can do it. But with this kind of multi-pronged approach, which is what the pledge has done by putting it in this kind of much more bigger message, really, for in-house, you can have time to do some pro bono work and do it because it's great for you. I think it's fabulous. And I look forward to celebrating 1 million hours of pro bono. And I'm sure it will happen. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Mia. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And thank you for everybody who joined us. And please do just go and do it. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.